2014, really to try to extend financial inclusion globally. He's authored 9 books on finance, as well as child welfare. He's really quite an extraordinary person. He holds a black belt in karate and has completed a marathon that was 1,648 kilometers long. That is just, and that's an ultra marathon. So really, he is extraordinary. He's got lots and lots of energy. His company serves 2.4 million clients across 5 countries. So I've just given you a few little tidbits about him, but I'll introduce him up on the stage now. You can give him a big round of applause. Taejun Shin, founder and chief executive officer of Gojo Company.
Just actually one correction is that yeah, I have published books, and I just recently published a novel. So hi everyone. Like many other entrepreneurs, I often give self-introductions, and yeah, here's the one I typically use. Hi, I'm Taejun Shin. I was born and raised in Japan, but I am stateless and do not hold a passport. I co-founded Gojo Company, which aspires to be the private sector version of the World Bank. Yeah, whenever I say this, some people get puzzled, like you in this room. So I'm here to satisfy that curiosity. So I think the first question you may ask is, why are you stateless? Well, the story started almost a century ago. My grandparents came from the southern part of the Korean peninsula before the end of the World War II. Back then, Korea was part of the Japanese Empire, so my grandparents held the Japanese citizenship. They decided to come to Japan and settle here. But after the war ended, Japan gave up its sovereignty over the Korean peninsula, and all Koreans in Japan became effectively stateless. And then Japan came under the occupation of the US, and the Korean peninsula entered another war. So their stateless status became effectively permanent, and I inherited that status. Even today, there are 30,000 Koreans, stateless Koreans in Japan. But we have a permanent residency here. Next, people often ask me, then how do you travel if you don't have a passport? Yes, I have a travel document, which is called a re-entry permit. To understand my document better, let me start with a normal passport. So normal passport. Most passports have a first page that says something like, 1, this person is a citizen of our country. And then 2, therefore, this person can come back to our country. And then 3rd, we ask the other nations to offer necessary support. And now, here's the first page of my travel document. You can see that it basically states none of the usual points. The only thing it clarifies in a later page is that I may return back to Japan. And then that is why this document is called a re-entry permit. There is no phrase indicating that the Japanese government will protect me if I run into trouble abroad. And actually, I needed to confirm it when my travel document was stolen in Europe. When this happened, I still called the Japanese embassy, hoping that they might help. But the embassy officials very politely told me that there is nothing that we can do for you. Then another question that I get is, why don't you just acquire Japanese citizenship? Yes, it is an option. However, until very recently, there was a rule requiring us to change the pronunciation of our names to the Japanese readings of the Chinese characters. Okay, it's a bit complicated, so let me give you an example. Who's this person? Yes, Masayoshi-son, the founder of Soka. Actually, he once had the same status as mine, and his original name was Song Jong-wi, which is how you would pronounce those Chinese characters in Korean. when he naturalized, he became Son Masayoshi. So in my case, Taejun Shin or Shin Taejun will become Shin Yasutoshi. Taejun Yasutoshi. Maybe not. So I decided not to change it. Even though the rules have relaxed somehow now, I have lived with this identity for so long that I don't feel like changing it for now. Of course, there is a price to pay for that decision. Every time I travel, I need to apply for a visa. And some countries have no process for stateless individuals like me. So sometimes I need to work really hard to let them create a new process. And additionally, my travel document cannot be scanned in the usual passport readers at airports. So quite often, immigration officers and airport police people take me to a separate room and ask me tons of questions. And then I have to explain everything. Even for travelers with a normal passport, sometimes immigration is intimidating because you never quite know what might happen to you because you are outside of your home country. So you can imagine how I would feel. So if you were to follow a typical career advice flowchart like this, it will never recommend me to start a business of global financial inclusion because it entails frequent overseas travels. So why did I start it? Well, again, part of the answer lies in my upbringing. My family was not wealthy, and my mom here serves as the CFO of my household. She was the one who managed the tight cash flow of my household, securing funds from the relatives and others whenever the cash was short. But there was a moment where even her financial juggling didn't work pretty well. We didn't have money to pay the entrance fee for my graduate school. And that tuition was critical for me because going to graduate school was an important first step to build a career in the finance industry and improving my financial situation. I think I can never forget the look on my mother's face when she exhausted all possible measures and resources. Then my father stepped in as the last resort. He went up and managed to secure money from somewhere, probably at great personal cost. And he handed me a big envelope of cash in our small living room. And I can still vividly remember that moment. Thanks to that money, I entered graduate school and I studied very hard. And then later on, I studied my career at private equity. After 8 years, I became financially secure enough to take a risk on my own startup. Therefore, I know how critical financial inclusion is. And that is why I co-founded Gojo & Company to extend financial inclusion across the globe by becoming the private sector world bank. Today, we provide microfinance services for millions of households in developing countries. And it has become a B Corp certified impact unicorn. When I look back, my life has been full of challenges. Some are results of my own decisions and mistakes, but some are beyond my control. Having lived through them, I have developed my own coping mechanism, and I would like to share that with you. That is, I try to find meaning in the challenges I face. Whenever I face trouble, I ask myself, what is this situation teaching me? What does it want me to do? Usually, when I reflect on deeply, almost always I can find a lesson or a purpose hidden behind it. Once I identify it, I move forward. instance, remaining as a stateless has become a constant reminder for me to think about the people who are underprivileged. It also works as a promotion for the 10 million people, stateless people worldwide, living with uncertain legal status and limited protections. If I had not been born stateless, I would not be as serious about equality of opportunity as I am today. Next, my family's financial difficulties taught me the importance of financial inclusion. Thanks to financial inclusion, I managed to overcome my own destiny and achieve my own future. Financial inclusion is a human right and an integral part of equality of opportunity. If my family were wealthy enough, probably I would not have started Gojo. But actually, the challenges that I shared with you were not even the hardest compared with the challenges that I faced as an entrepreneur. As many entrepreneurs agree with me, there are so many hard things. And every suffering forced me to ask, do I really love what I do? And is it worth persevering with all this? These constant questions made me a real entrepreneur. So I think a silver lining to our adversity is that it can clarify what truly matters to us. The suffering teaches us who we are. And that self-realization is perhaps the most important lesson that I learned in my journey as an entrepreneur. Thank you for listening.